Can't hear me? You know, when I was about 9 years old, I was sitting on the porch, and my brother was across the street on top of Don Zipper's roof with a cape around his neck and this on the back of the cape. And he went Superman and jumped off and didn't even get hurt.
Hello. Thank you guys all for being here. Sorry. I'm not much of a talker like my dad was, so he loved crowds and loved people. I'm actually the opposite. Not that I don't care about any of you, but, you know. I wasn't sure what I was going to say or what I was going to, like, express for my dad, but I figured I'd say something that I kept asking myself, what am I going to say? What am I going to explain for my dad? And when I was a kid, my dad made me watch the Babe Ruth story and the new Rock News story all the time. Now, I don't know if you guys knew, but VHS had terrible quality. And that rewind button was the worst thing ever. So, as a send-off to my dad, I'm going to make it short and sweet. I'm going to read the new Rock News speech, Do It for the Gipper. And that's what I'm going to say to send off to my dad. So, the speech starts, well, boys, I haven't a thing to say. Played a great game, all of you. Great game. I guess we just can't expect to win them all. I'm going to tell you something I've kept to myself for years. None of you ever knew George Gillett. It was long before your time. But you know what a tradition he was to Notre Dame. And the last thing he said to me was, Brock, sometime when the team is up against it, and the breaks are beating the boys, tell them to go out there with all they got and just win one for the Kipper. I don't know where I'll be then, Doc, he said. Sorry. But I'll know about it and I'll be happy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm a little mic shy, you know, so bear with me. It's a nice turnout for Tony, isn't it? I mean, look around, this is Pedro. It really is. The other thing I noticed when I looked around is most of us were born in the 40s. So, sometimes we're like recognizing people. Now, there are a few from the 50s, I guess. So, one thing about Tony and about all of us, really, when you think about it, is life is a roller coaster in so many ways. Collectively, we've lived through that this last year and a half with the pandemic. But we don't know what brings us together, what binds us as people, as friends. We know about families, but it's the friendships, the people that we go to school with, the people that we get attached to. We don't know when that happens or why it happens. Sometimes because of characteristics and traits. Sometimes it's because of events. Sometimes it just happens because of circumstances, sports, etc. And Pedro is a really great example of a community that sticks together, because we got a lot of things that bind us together. And all these years later, you can see the results when we talk about Tony. And I didn't know Tony when I was a kid. And I didn't know Jerry. And of course, it must have been difficult for Tony to follow Big Brother, who was a legend. But Tony was up to it. Because Tony had that heart, he had that spunk, he was irrepressible. And he was always irrepressible. And so later in life, we became friends, and I bet you I speak for most of you that know him that well, that when he called you, because you were friends, Tony wanted to talk, and Tony wanted to talk. Steve Marcotti was talking about the way to finish a phone call sometimes might have been to fall asleep on the phone, you know? So a quick one, and I'm not going to give a speech, even though it says that here. I'm going to read Lefty Algin. If you remember the Algins in those days, we call them Olguins now.
Yeah.
I'm going to read Lefty's letter because it really hits on these points. But 2 years ago, I was representing the United States with one of our national teams down at the Pan Am Games in Lima, Peru. And the phone rings, my cell phone rings, and it's Tony. I said, Tony, how you doing? You know, and we're talking. I said, Tony, I'm in Lima, Peru at the Pan American Games, so I really can't stay on the phone. You think that made any difference to Tony? No. Tony wouldn't let go. I was on the phone for an hour with Tony in Lima, Peru. And it is just so much Tony. Irrepressible, no doubt about it. And we go through life and we think of the characters that we knew along the way. None of us will ever forget him. He will always be in our minds. And that's a great thing. And to the family, Jerry, sisters, daughter, it's memorable that we could get all these people together to celebrate Tony's life. And I thought it was memorable when I read Lefty's letter, and I was really delighted when Jerry sent it to me, because I think it really hits on those notes. Pedro memories to the Rodich family and Tony's friends. First of all, let me apologize to the Rodich family for my absence. A week ago, I had surgery on a leg that was damaged in a football game while playing for our San Pedro Pirates in 1968. Rehab is a 3-month process, and I'm not able to travel anywhere over 25 miles for at least 3 to 4 weeks. I would love to be there with many of the same guys that I looked up to as a teenager. I remember watching Whitey Campbell, Jerry Rodich, my cousin Tony Alchin play football. I watched my cousin Pokey Alchin, Ricky Gonzalez from Furman La Salin play football. But it was Tony Rodich that I remember best. I would walk up 17th Street, leaving Dana Junior High, headed home, and stopping off to watch Pedro baseball practice. I remember Tony being the most vocal guy on the team. Oh, what a surprise. And he was a real tough guy. But he was really caring, a caring guy that always took younger kids under his wing. One day at practice, as I sat on the team bench, someone broke a bat during batting practice. Tony brought the bat over to me and told me to keep it. Go home and tape it up so I could hit tennis balls with it. I kept that bat for years and never forgot the guy that gave it to me. Throughout my life, Tony Rodich has always been one of my supporters, whether I was playing baseball or coaching baseball. He was always part of my life until the day he passed. The last time I had the opportunity to see Tony was January 27th, 2020, at the San Pedro High alumni baseball game. We took a picture together with John Dadich, and Pedro greats Pat Yelovich and Bobby Sandoval, and of course Tony Rodich. I kept in touch with Tony on a regular basis, and I will truly miss him. I want to thank his brother Jerry and his sisters Mary and Velma for always supporting Tony. Thanks for your friendship, and may God continue to bless all of you. That's Lefty Olpe. Lefty Olpe. And thank you all for being here to share the memories of Tony.
Okay, it's time for Mary and Velma, my sisters. It was me and my brother, my 2 sisters. I remember when my Mary started dating when we were in high school. The guys didn't want to come in our house, so they had to sit in their car and wait for Mary to go out and get in the car because they were afraid to come in there with me and my brother sitting in the front room.
I just want to thank all of you from the bottom of our hearts. I look out and I see guys we grew up demonstrating who's been part of our life. RC, John Dennis, all you guys I can't even mention, but I want to tell you, he loved all of you. He might have called you, you might have said, oh God, it's Tony. But you know what? I'll never forget the last words he said to me. Let me tell you, I had no dates in high school. How's that? Nobody wanted to talk to me because of my brother Anthony. He choked people. In fact, he choked somebody too. Robert Ramsey, he choked them. Anyway, but I love my brother Anthony. He truly loved every single one of you that are in here. He always talks so highly about all of you. This is hard for me and my sister. But thank you.
Thank you for being here, too. I'm 10 years younger than Anthony, so I had to bring that up. I'm the baby, but when I graduated from high school, he wanted to start hanging around with all my friends. He was the coach of all these guys sitting here, and he talked me into being the team mom. And I was like, okay, this will be fun. So Lana and I, we kind of teamed up and said, okay, we're going to call the guys together and tell them the practices and go to the game. Oh, we just were the best team moms ever. But did I look like a team mom? No, I was their age. No, Anthony was, and when he called me, we talked about that all the time. Well, guess what? I saw Nick Patton the other day, and I talked to him, and I saw Ray Elf. He would always tell me who he would see and tell me the conversation and how they talk about this and they talk about, he called Lana twice a week probably, 3 times a week. I mean, he loved everybody in this room. Dad, she told me, he would call him, and Dad told me, he would call me all the time and I would answer the phone and talk to him. I knew, it was going to be a conversation, but he loved Anthony, and I appreciate that. When somebody says that to me, I appreciate it because, yeah, he was a pain to talk to sometimes, but it was Anthony. And we all loved him, and I love him, and I miss him.
And one thing I gotta say, I told a couple of people, when Anthony got married at his bachelor party, usually people strip show, my brother showed his football clips, okay?
And picture wagon, guys. Picture wagon.
Yeah, with the guys I played baseball with, Eddie and Bobby. But when we left Pony League, we went to this new field, the Fromhold field. Eddie started playing with us, but he left us behind. Ended up getting drafted, and you guys know the story with Eddie. But Bobby and I continued to play, and our first year, Tony was our coach. Nick Lusick and Tony. First year, I think we were late, weren't we? Kind of late, we didn't do anything yet. So we were like the Bad News Bears the first year we went out, we were just messing around. Tony was so serious. Nick Lusick was dressed, his uniform looked like a professional. We called him the neat man, because everything was neat about him. He would stand like this. And Tony, I have to say, the second year we might have blew his mind, because we went to the beach and he goes, okay, who went to the beach today? And I go, I didn't go to the beach today. But we didn't go to the beach today. But we're 15 years old. We don't realize we're like beet red with the sunburn. So Tony looks at me and says, I'm going to ask you again, Nick, did you go to the beach? I said, no, Tony, I didn't go to the beach. He goes, you better run. He gets the baseball and fires it in my back. I go, no coach ever hit me before. He threw a baseball right in my back. What the hell was that? And he looks at me and he goes, your dad told me that I could do whatever I wanted. I go, wow. But we actually had, and I'm really happy for Tony, because there was a lot of phone calls about this team. It was probably the funnest and the best team I've ever played on. The group of guys were phenomenal baseball players after we got it together. Because we got it together, and we were like 15-3 or something, and it was like Tony was just so proud the second year going, man, nobody can beat us, nobody can take us, you guys are the best, man, I'm so proud of you guys. And I was like, yeah, we just were having fun. So when you have fun, you tend to win.
My name is John Dadich. I lived with Tony for about 40 years ago for a while. We had some good times together. One story, we went up to Averill Park one night. I don't know, you guys probably all know where Averill Park is. And anyway, we were drinking, and one thing led to another. I got in a fight with a really big guy, and I was getting worked over, and the guy was on top of me, and next thing I knew, I was on top of him.
And I couldn't figure out what happened, you know, and everything worked out good after that. And then Tony told me, he goes, I had to even that out a little bit. It wasn't looking right. So thank you for that, Tony.
It's good to see everybody out here. A little bit of history. My wife, Mary, I'm Mouse Mitchell, by the way, if you don't know me. My wife, Mary, didn't date in school because she had 2 older brothers. And if someone get caught talking to her, you'd see a right fist coming over, you know, and knocking somebody out. That's why nobody dated Mary. So, bring things back up to the perspective. 4 years ago, I go over to the family's house for Christmas. And Jerry's there, Tony's there, Velma, Mary, kids, and Tony comes up to me and says, "Oh, Mouse, you going out with my sister, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, don't forget, you still got me and Jerry, you know." And that was Jerry. I've known Jerry since I was in junior high school, and that was Jerry. And what a wonderful guy. And you look at those pictures, and he always had a smile on his face. Even if he was going to kick your ass, he had a smile on his face.
I have to say, I don't know why, but I grew up next door to Anthony, and I basically, before he passed, he was in Palm Springs, and I was there, so I saw him quite a bit, talked to him all the time. I love Anthony with all my heart. He protected all us girls forever in Catalina, and where we went, it was, don't mess with my girls. He was my brother. And Thelma and I finally moved out when I was 18, and guess what? Anthony moved next door. John Dadge, all the boys, and it was torture. We thought we finally got away and moved out, woohoo, and Anthony moves in. So. Oh yeah, when we were gone, we come home, they'd be like in our house, Anthony'd be laying on our couch, eating our food. But Val and I, that was my best friend all my life, who I love to death, you know that. Your whole family, everybody, and all his friends. Anthony, he's looking down on all of us and smiling because he loved everybody. He had the warmest heart. He was very, very special. So,
no, he was just a really good man. He was a good brother, a good friend, a good father. He was a good man. And we're all very lucky to have known him. And look at the friends that he has. It's a reflection of who he was. So that's the best a man can ask for, is to look at his friends and say, that's who I am. And that's who I'll always be. So God love you, Anthony. We love you and miss you.
I got to know Tony as an athlete at Harvard College. And he was one of the few people that I ever met that knew more about sports than just about anybody that I had ever come across, particularly an athlete in the South Bay. And I would never forget one time, I went to Jordan High School. San Pedro and Jordan are great rivals. And he told me about a story that, and so, might be some of you baseball players who were on this particular team. There was a team from San Pedro that was undefeated, #1 ranked team in the city, and they were playing Jordan High School, which was probably in the middle of the league as far as the standings. And they had this game where San Pedro was winning, they were undefeated, but Jordan somehow managed to get the bases loaded, or a lot of players only could make a difference if they could score a run. And this guy came up, this little skinny little guy from Jordan came up and hit a home run. And that changed the whole season. Not didn't change the season for San Pedro, but it ended their undefeated streak that they were running at. And they were ranked the #1 team in the whole city. He told me this story. I was at Jordan at the time this happened, but I didn't know about it because at Jordan it wasn't really talked about that much because baseball was not the main sport at Jordan. It was like basketball, track, football, and baseball was like a secondary sport. So I didn't know this significant game that was played, and it made a big difference in players at San Pedro. And later on, went to Harbor College and got to know the players and got to know these stories that I heard about from Tony, and I know the significance that it meant to him, and also that the players that he got to know and share with me some of the things that he would always see and that he would always point out, say, hey, look at this guy, he's a great athlete, and things like that. And we'd always have a conversation around those particular things. But what was really important is that he showed that he really cared about other people and that they made a real difference in his life. And the significant people, to him, he would always shout out or say something positive about them. And Harley, that's one of the things I always remember about him. And it was just a great privilege to get to know him and get to hear those stories that I always look forward to hearing. And always would be something he would say that would be funny and that would be also to the point, to truth, in terms of how he saw things. He is someone that I will always remember, and that I would like to think that we could perhaps someday have some type of recognition or some type of a memorial award that is given to an athlete either at San Pedro High School or at Harbor College in his memory. And I think that would be a great tribute to him because he really loved Harbor, he really loved San Pedro High School athletics, and I think that would be a real great tribute to him. We could do that. Thank you.
My name is John Yelisich, John Anthony Yelisich. I want to say so much. I'm looking at guys and some gals that we have some history with. I was telling somebody, me and Dad were talking to earlier about it. When we were all living together around 21st Street, we got stories that make you sleep with a nightlight on. But anyway, the great thing was it all started for me when I moved back to San Pedro in 1968. I wasn't accepted by a lot of people. A lot of the guys in this room, guys who thought I was a narc. I went away somewhere and I came back to Pedro and I'm going to start telling on people because, people are starting to do other things and just drink at Eagle Park. And where it all started was a box boy at McAllen's with 23 Walker. And I was really good at it. And Mr. Rodich had a certain way that he wanted his groceries back. And I bagged him just like that. Every time when the Rodiches went grocery shopping at McAllen's, there were shelves that were empty after they left. And I could ask for a sign of hands. How many of you never had spaghetti dinner on Sunday night at the Rodich house? And it just started from there. Then John McCown made me a checker, and they would wait, and they would stay in my check stand, and I would be their checker. And one thing led to another, and one of the greatest guys that I've ever known in my entire life, the big brother I never had, standing right here, came to work for McCown's in the liquor department. And he taught me a few things, Jerry did, that had nothing to do with fucking football. The fact that I was being chased by an older girl in San Pedro, I won't break her anonymity with the Rodich. But there was these canned Heineken cocktails that Jerry would shake up for me to get me ready for my first experience with older women. Well, I was a great surfer. I was a good surfer in San Pedro. I think it was Coach Satius Abbott, who I tried playing football because my Uncle John used to cut me at McAllen's on 23 Walker. There's probably some of you that remember. Well, him and Tiora were a 1949 Championship B team from San Pedro. And my uncle thought, I was going to be the second coming of Johnny Unitas or whatever. I knew nothing about football. I loved surfing. I'd be in conversations down in the mag. We'd have all these who's your favorite athlete conversations. And Tony he would say, what's that, Ronnie Barber, or he mentioned his brother, or some great, and this would come all the way down the line and come to me, and I pull out a picture of David Nueva. I go, here's the greatest athlete I ever met right here. And I'm like, anyway, things got crazy for me, and I love the crazy, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm real proud of my sobriety today. By the hair of my chinny chin chin, I'm standing up here alive and welcome here. But the Rodich family, and Tony, he was like another one, like his sons, like the dad I never had, to me and a lot of us. And what they taught me, and my brother, my cousin right here, Ray, his brother, David, taught me about some of the greatest things in life. I'm just getting to the last conversations I was having with Anthony on Facebook. And it was a conversation I was having about him and his brother, reminding me of Secretariat and Seabiscuit, the two greatest racehorses ever. And Jerry was like Secretariat to me, because he's got a heart that's as big as he is. And Tony was a mean little, don't even look at me like that, knock you out. Tony Rose just swing at you and miss and knock you out. just like Seabiscuit did when he ran past War Admiral. I knew nothing about that. I knew nothing about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, but all those guys were in that apartment together that night when Magic's team, Michigan, beat Bird, and on I could go on and on. David taught me about Ted Williams, and how great was it that David got to be one of the best baseball players ever, not only in San Pedro, but ever. And then he got to have Ted Williams coach him. That's some San Pedro stuff that doesn't mean that much to a lot of other people. And a lot of it came like, and remember Dad would be like, who was it, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's another guy in San Pedro that we'd be all up and down for whatever reason, at 4 in the morning, having a quabble over some sports. And there was another slab kid that we used to call Jack, the sports master. We'd call at 4 in the morning, ask him about how many bases somebody stole in '59. And I just wanted to be a part of it. I just wanted to be a part of something. I just wanted to be a San Pedro boy. And I didn't know at the time, all the time, I was from the gate. And I've always been admired by you people, and it's an honor for me to be here. Rest in paradise, Tony. And I'm going to go home watching college basketball.
Anthony, Jerry, Mary, and Velma's cousin. And I'm probably next to Jerry that knows Anthony the longest. He was a year and a half younger than me. And as kids, we used to, before 1955, families always got together, and we would always, Anthony and I, because we're about the same age, close, we would always wrestle around and do things. And then when our grandfather died in 55, for some reason or another, our parents became bitter enemies all of a sudden, and we didn't do family gatherings anymore. But Anthony and I would be at the boys' club together. We were at Dana together, high school together. And one thing I remember, the last time I sent Anthony a picture, I might have saw it where he was catching a pass in a Gardena game. And he called me back and he goes, oh, that was a defensive guy who was guarding me. It was all city. I caught 10 passes. I ran the kickoff back 80 yards. I made 5 tackles. It was like, and then another time, we were together. It was your 75th birthday. Was the last time I saw Anthony. And he goes, man, there's only 2 guys that ever beat me up, and you're one of them. And I was thinking, when? I don't remember that at all. And he tells me about when we were in boys club. Remember you used to have a boxing ring in there? And they taught us guys, put the gloves on and taught us guys how to box. So apparently Anthony and I got matched up one time, and I beat him. I don't remember that at all, but he remembers every detail about it. That's the last thing I talked to him. That was one of the things he told me. You're the only one of 2 guys that ever beat me up. He didn't tell me who the other guy was. Was that you? What? Were you the other guy that beat him up? Yeah. And then another time at that Jerry's party there, I was on the basketball team, and back in those days, semesters, you weren't on the basketball team, you were on the football team. You couldn't be on both because of the semesters. So at the end of the basketball season, we would challenge the football team to a basketball game. They never challenged us to a football game, I don't know why. But anyway, he reminded me of that game. And he goes, you know, I scored 24 points, I had 10 rebounds, 5 assists. That's back in 1963, you know, I can't remember every detail. I go, was I guarding you? He goes, no, it was Mike Cherney. He could have played varsity basketball. He was just a great athlete. So I love my cousin. We had some great times, especially when we were younger. So thanks a lot.
Now, over here looking at Richard Doyle, and I remember when I was 12 years old, we were down at the Boys Club at the first year I ever played football, and I tell you, it was the worst year of my life. I got beat up so bad. But anyway, that's another story.
How determined he was. Well, one night we were going out, this is back in the 80s, we were going out to the Red End, and we're a little pickle. Tony was driving his Volkswagen, right? And we're on our way out there, and we didn't, right by Nevada Bay, they got those eucalyptus trees. Well, he was driving a little fast, and we rolled the Volkswagen. And it was sliding on the hood, and, you know, burned. We didn't have our seatbelt up. And sure got a little bird. We turned that little Volkswagen over, and we went right to the red end.
I want to thank Dan again, and I also want to thank my daughters, Candace, Tricia, and Michelle for putting this thing together. They did all the organizing, put the program together, did all that stuff, all the dirty work, and really appreciate that. And again, I miss my brother, I really do. I mean, we've been down a few roads together, and I remember a lot of good things about him. I mean, he did a lot of good stuff in this town. I mean, he was the chairman of the San Pedro Sports Walk in the waterfront. He put that thing back together with John Papadavis to get that thing rolling again. He was a great coach. He coached football at San Pedro High School. He coached, was it Colby?
Yeah, Colby.
With these guys over here. I mean, it's really a tribute to him to have all these people there, all these guys from Harvard College, Frank Terrace, and Jim Hite, and Herman Franklin, and my buddy Eric Wheeler. Who else is here from Harvard? A lot of people. Oh yeah, Barbara Troy, Wayne Campbell. All these people over here. I'm not going to mention all the names. Anyway, really appreciate you guys coming out. So tribute to my brother, and I'm sure that he would have been really happy. I mean, he was a party guy, but he loved everybody. And I tell you what, he always had a smile on his face wherever he went. Anyway, thanks to everybody.